Good evening. Welcome to the Paul Comedy Podcast, June 4th, 2024, episode 188. Daily episodes of the Paul Comedy Podcast. This is a podcast for all you dreamers out there. And I am a stand-up comedian and an improviser and an actor. And just documenting my journey for anybody out there who might have a similar journey or, I don't know, just wants to tune in to see how ridiculous it is to try to go for something big in life. So, obviously, I've sort of reversed my release schedules on these. Those who follow the podcast know that I do try to release in the morning, but I have been incredibly busy, and I was traveling over the weekend, and so getting these podcasts out in the morning just has not really been feasible. And since being back in town the last couple of days, it has just been a very, very busy couple of days with all kinds of work stuff and comedy stuff and show production stuff and personal health and exercising and meetings and marketing and website links and images and phone calls and Zoom meetings. All good stuff. All really, really fun stuff. So, let's see. Where do I even begin? So, let's see. I caught up with you all kind of last evening. So, not a lot has happened since last night, obviously. But today, I had an opportunity to head over to my good buddy Josh Noby's place, and we filmed another episode of the Midlife Crisis comedy show, which we are really starting to push hard and trying to get more shows on the books. And we have a pretty strong lead on a potential theater in Tampa, Florida, that we will be looking at potentially trying to do a show there at the end of July. And other than that, we have two big shows coming up that I'm really excited about. One at JP's Comedy Club, and then another one at the Tempe Improv. And we'll see how those go. We have not sold any tickets to the Tempe Improv show yet, which we were a little concerned about. And we actually had a phone call today with their marketing person who was super fantastic, very helpful, very willing to listen to our questions and make recommendations on what we can do to move tickets. The show that we have at JP's Comedy Club has done fairly well at ticket sales. I was hoping we'd have a little more by now, but Josh and I, we actually hired a full-time, not full-time, he's not on salary, but we hired a guy off of Upwork to manage our social media ads for us. And he's very sharp, but we're also just seeing how well he does and how well he knows how to make this stuff happen. So a lot of moving parts. One thing that was very cool about the Tempe Improv after we had our conversation today is the ad campaign that we had ran, we got a ton of clicks to the Tempe Improv website. We got almost 600 clicks, yet we sold 0 tickets. We're going, how does that even make sense? Obviously, you're not going to have a 100% conversion rate, but out of 600 links, seriously, not one person followed through and actually bought a ticket. And one of the things that our advertiser recommended was actually having our own separate ticket link. But we were a little concerned about that because we didn't think that the Tempe Improv would go for that. That they would just let us sell our own tickets on our own, tickets to people to show up at their venue. But when we had that conversation, I just brought that up, just expecting it would be an automatic no. And she's like, oh, yeah, you can totally do that. Like it wasn't even a thought, a second thought to her. And I just went, that's kind of interesting how often I think we assume the answer is no, and so we don't even ask. And Sure, maybe the answer is no, but you never actually know until you just ask. And, as far as our relationship with Tempe Improv, this is sort of a new relationship. And so, I didn't want to be like, come a nuisance or try to make too much hassle or too much work on them, work for them. And here, like, we're just on this phone meeting and just said, yeah, could we just do this? And it was like, oh yeah, like they didn't even cross their mind that would be a challenge or a nuisance or whatever. And so that's really exciting for us, because what that allows us to do is to have a lot more visibility and autonomy over the marketing campaign. So whereas before, when somebody would visit the Tempe Improv site from our ads, we had no idea who they were. We had no idea where they bounced. We had no idea how long they were on the page. We couldn't track anything with pixels or anything like that because it's their website. But now, with our own ticketing link and that we're driving ads to, now we get a lot more visibility. We can see who visited. We can see, how long they visited the site. We can see where they bounced. We can see the abandoned carts. We can see a lot more information. So hopefully we'll be able to start moving tickets to that event as well. And I'll tell you, it's just been a really fascinating development over these couple of months to just see how this show has started to take shape, and how much energy both Josh and I, who on our own are stand-up comedians, we have our own individual stand-up comedy ambitions, but it is a lonely road out there as a stand-up comedian, and if you don't have a pretty significant degree of fame, trying to figure out a way to be successful is just incredibly challenging. And especially with the latest updates just in our economy is in general, and with inflation and everything that's going on, so many avenues for comedians are either drying up, or they are not paying as much, or not paying as well. And it's just harder and harder. And, I was talking to my partner, Josh, about this, and just said, yeah, 20 years ago, if you were just a funny comedian and really funny, comedy clubs would just book you, and then you could just tour, and then you could go get into the college market, or you could go get into the corporate market or the cruise ship market, or, military tour market, and you could actually make a living. That just seems more and more to be going away. And what you have to do now is you actually have to create your own show and create your own business and run your comedy like a business, instead of just like, well, I'm the artist, I'll let the business people handle the business side. I just want to show up and tell jokes. It's like, well, sure, great. That would be wonderful. We would all love that. But it just seems that things are shifting. It reminds me, a couple of weeks ago, this podcast from Jason Alexander, who played, of course, George Costanza on Seinfeld. And he was talking about this a little bit in terms of the acting space. And he just said, so many actors, they just want to move to LA and then just show up and get a gig. And he goes, it just seems that even in the acting space, there's been a huge shift to where now if you want to the gig, you have to go create the gig. If you want to star in a movie, you have to go create the movie. If you want to be on TV, go create the television show, go write it, go produce it, and then you can be in it. And I think that's sort of a similar shift to what we're seeing in stand-up comedy, to where it used to just be, if you want to do comedy, you just did comedy, and then the gigs would find you. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but it seems like it exists maybe a little less, or, the gigs are far and fewer between, and they aren't paying as much as they used to, and they're a lot more competitive. And I've definitely experienced that even within my own short tenure in the stand-up comedy space. And so anymore, it seems like if you want the gig, you got to go create the gig. And I feel that's sort of what Josh and I are doing, is we're going, all right, well, If we want to tour the country, we need to create the tour. If we want to sell tickets, we need to create the tickets. If, we need to create the advertising to sell the tickets. We can't rely on, the comedy clubs to sell tickets because it's so hard. Even for well-established comedy clubs like, the Tempe Improv, which has been around for decades, I think. It's been around at least since I remember being in Arizona. But the improv brand, the franchise, there's an improv in Hollywood, there's an improv in Vegas, I think, or maybe not Vegas. No, that's Laugh Factory in Vegas. Anyway, they're all over the country, right? It's a very well-established franchise brand, and it's a struggle for them to sell tickets. Again, if you're not famous. Everything I say has an asterisk of if you're not already famous. If you're already famous, you're just in a different ball. It's just a different league. I'm not saying there isn't challenges. I'm not saying it isn't hard there as well, but it's just a different type of hard. When you're a draw and your name is a draw, if you're Sarah Silverman, you can show up and sell tickets. If you're Bill Burr, you can show up and sell tickets. But for the rest of us, it's really a matter of learning how to create our own brand and build the brand from scratch and find a way to sell tickets to our own shows and to do our own marketing and to push it real good. Bump, ba-dun, dun, dun. So that's the update today. I am just swimming in all of these types of decisions regarding the podcast show, my own comedy, all of these upcoming live shows that we've booked, and trying to learn how to be successful in that and to put butts in seats and to create relationships with the bookers and the club owners and the talent agents and everything so that we are bringing them a good product and that we are easy to work with and that we're providing them with support to their club, where we're also able to be successful and earn an income for ourselves and start to grow this brand. And I think there is really something to this idea of not self-filtering ourselves, not being afraid to ask the question because we assume the answer already is going to be no. Just like I had with that experience with Tempe Improv, where I just said, there's just no way they would let us have our own ticketing site. Even though for our purposes with this venue, that is what would be ideal. And finally asked the question and it was a non-issue. So sometimes you got to just ask the question. Sometimes you got to ask people for help. Sometimes you got to make recommendations, put yourself out there, and, maybe give some people the benefit of the doubt, because I am finding that there are a lot of people out there who want to be helpful and want us to be successful and want me to be successful. And it's great. It's great to experience that and to feel that and to maybe let go of whatever sort of limiting mindsets or beliefs that maybe I have or maybe all of us have regarding, our assumptions about people who may or may not be on our team. So whatever it is you're going through, keep pushing, everybody. Put yourself out there, ask for help where needed. Maybe the answer isn't no, and maybe the answer will be yes, and maybe we can all start finding ways to create our dreams instead of waiting for somebody else to hand it to us. And if we want the gig, sometimes we got to go make the gig. And if you want the dream, sometimes you got to go make the dream. So we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a very interesting next couple of months because a lot of stuff that is really brand new and in its infancy right now is going to start. There's going to be some rubber hitting the road here, pretty quick. these next two shows here at the end of June. And then we booked JP's and Gilbert again for next month in July. So we've already got that on the books. So, this is going to give us an opportunity to prove if we can deliver time and time again, if we can deliver monthly. We had a great turnout the first time we did it, but was that just a flash in the pan? Was that lightning in the bottle? Can we replicate that sort of success and that sort of volume on a regular basis? And can we not only do it at one club, but can we do that at multiple clubs and be able to sort of spread out, and be successful at multiple venues on a regular basis and prove our concept and prove that we can be of a value to the club. We're easy to work with. We want everybody to win, which we do. We want everybody to be successful. We want it to be a win for the club and for the audience and for us, for the other comics. And, that's the goal. And all of the work that we're doing right now is starting to lead towards building what I think is a very cool brand idea and something that is really resonating with me and that I'm having a lot of fun being involved in and putting my ingenuity and energy and effort behind, teaming up instead of just it being all me all the time. Who would have thought? So everybody, that is the update for today. I am going to try to start getting back early again to start doing this at 8 a.m. But man, I'll tell you, with as busy as I'm getting and with as often as I'm traveling makes it really hard to get these podcasts out on a daily basis in the morning. But I am trying. And for all my listeners out there who expected it at 8 a.m., I thank you for your patience and for listening. All right, everybody. So that is the update for today, June 4th, 2024, episode 188 of the Paul Green Comedy Podcast. I love you all so much, and I will check in with you tomorrow.